Greetings everyone, welcome to AK Online Academy. Alright, so yesterday I gave you an assignment on quadratic equations paper 2. And so in this video we're simply going to be solving those assignment questions I gave you. Okay, so the first question came from mathematics paper 2 2022 exam paper, and this one was written by the grade 12s in 2022, and the question says solve the equation 3x squared. I think we're a bit too small. Let's try to zoom in. Yeah, I think that's better. Okay, solve the equation 3x squared minus 5x minus 7. So according to this equation, we need to figure out the values of a, b, and c. Remember from the examples, so we have 3 there, we have -5 there, and -7. Okay, you know how to extract these values. This is a, this is b, and this is c. Okay, -7, -5, and 3. Alright, having extracted those values, we now need to use our quadratic formula, which is x is equal to -b plus or minus square root of b squared minus 4ac. Okay, and then everything over 2a. At this point we simply need to substitute these values into the formula. So where there is a we put 3, where there is b we put -5, and where there is c we put -7. So we have a b there. Okay, so I'm going to say negative, our b is what? -5. So we're going to say -5 close plus or minus square root of our b is -5 squared minus 4, our a is 3 over there, so I'm going to say 3 open bracket close bracket, our c is -7 close, then everything over 2, our a is 3. Now we can solve. So I'm going to say x is equal to negative times negative right there and there. Okay, this one times this one gives you a positive, so we're going to have +5 plus or minus, let me put it down a bit, plus or minus square root of -5 squared there. Oops, let's draw it properly. Okay, yeah, fair enough. -5 squared right here gives us +25. Okay, and then there -4 times 3 times -7. Let me punch that. So -4 is it, open bracket 3 close bracket open bracket -7 close bracket, that gives me +84. So +84. Okay, and then everything over 6, because here 2 times 3 gives us a 6. So at this point we are going to say x is equal to 5 plus or minus 25 plus 84 gives us 109. So the square root of 109, then everything over 6. So now if you remember, I mentioned when you get to this point you simply need to now say x is equal to 5, you capture the positive at this point. Okay, and then you're going to say 109 everything over 6, and then you say or the same formula and values, except this time around we're picking the negative. Okay, minus the square root of 109, then everything over 6. Okay, so we're going to solve on the left. On my calculator I'm going to say open bracket 5 plus the square root of 109, and then I close the bracket, and then everything over 6. When I press equals, it gives me 2.57338, 2.57338 4418. Or again I punch open bracket 5 minus square root of 109 close bracket everything over 6. So this side it's giving me x is equal to negative 0.90671 77515. This is important because in case when rounding off you make a mistake, you get a mark from there and there. So don't be lazy, write down the whole value, don't round it off as you are copying. You round off when you get to this next step. So meaning this one is going to be 2 point, remember it's 2 decimal places. Okay, so that's our answer there. And then we say x will be equal to negative 0.91. Okay, this 6 is rounding the 0 upwards. And we are done. That's our final answer there. We got the next one. It says solve the equation 5x squared minus 9x minus 4. Okay, so another thing I forgot to mention in the previous example was that you need to make sure that this quadratic equation is arranged according to the quadratic format, while the first term should have a squared variable. You can see this one is raised to the power of 2. Then the second one should have a variable but raised to the power of 1. And then the last one should be a constant. Okay, that is a standard format. So before you start solving, make sure it meets that standard. Okay, so meaning our a here is going to be positive 5. And then our b is negative 9. And then our c is negative 4. We now go to our equation. X is equal to negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac. Okay, then everything over 2a. We plug in the values. X will be equal to negative, so this is a negative I've written down. It does not automatically belong to the value for b. You have to make sure you write it down. Okay, so negative, what is b? B is negative 9, and they like putting b as a negative value so that you, when you come, you just say negative 9 plus or minus, and then you get the question wrong. So be very careful, pick the values together with their signs. Okay, and then b is negative 9, so we're going to say negative 9 squared minus 4. What is a? A is 5, c is negative 4. So we're going to say 5 c negative 4. Close. And then everything over 2. What is a? A is positive 5. So I have a 5 there. Meaning x will be equal to this negative times this negative gives us a positive 9, plus or minus the square root of negative 9 squared gives us positive 81. And then here I'm going to punch everything right there. Okay, so that is negative 4 open bracket 5 negative 4 open bracket 5 close bracket open bracket negative 4 again. Is it? Yeah. Close the bracket equals, that gives me positive 8. So I'm going to say plus positive 8, because negative times this negative will give you a positive. So that's how we come we have a positive there. Okay, and then we can now say everything over 10. Okay, 2 times 5 gives us a 10. So x will be equal to, so that's 80 I found on my calculator. I didn't erase it, so all I have to do now is say plus 81. Okay, so I'll simply say plus 81. That gives me 161. Okay, so I'll say 9 plus or minus the square root of 161, and then everything over 10. At this point, you know the drill. We're going to say 9, we pick the positive, plus square root of 161. Okay, let me just push the screen downwards. I think that will be enough. Then we say x is equal to 9. This time around we're going to pick the negative, this one right there. So we're going to say minus what? Minus the square root of 161. Then everything over 10, everything over 10. Let's punch. What do we get? Open bracket 9 square root of 161 close bracket everything over 10. Okay, This one gives me 11.41971. 11.41979. Oh, 71. Trying to test my memory. Turns out it's not that good. 1979. Okay, or x is equal to, so we also compute for this part. So we're going to say 9 minus, okay, in brackets, 9 minus the square root of 161, close brackets, and everything over 10. This gives me negative 0.36885775. 3688 So meaning x is equal to 11.42. This 9 will round the 1 upwards, it becomes a 2. Okay, so that's our final answer there. Or x is equal to negative 0.37. This 8 rounds up the 6 upwards. And we are done. We now go to an interesting question. Let's try to zoom in a little. Okay, looks like we're too zoomed out. Just try to zoom in. Okay, I think somewhere there. Okay, and we already have enough space downwards. So this one is coming from 2021 paper 2. It was written by the GCE candidates in 2021. Okay, so this one was a bit different. The equation is 3x plus 5 over x is equal to 12. This is also a quadratic equation, except it is just phrased differently. So all we have to do now is we need to get rid of this guy here, the x, the denominator. You don't want to have your quadratic equation with a denominator. So how do we get rid of it? We're going to multiply every single value with this very denominator. So meaning it's going to be x times 3x for the first term, this one here, okay, and then we say positive x, because this x is positive, okay, plus x times now this fraction here. So we're going to say times 5 over x is equal to, even this side you multiply with the x, okay, so that here when you multiply you're going to have 3x squared, and then here this x and that x will cancel, so you are just going to remain with positive 5 is equal to, and then there 12 times x gives us 12x. At this point you can now group the like terms. Make sure that the terms are in order of a quadratic format. Okay, so now that becomes a quadratic equation. At this point we can now pick the values a, b, and c. So a is 3, b is negative 12, and then c is positive 5. So we go to our formula, x is equal to negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac. Okay, then everything over 2a. So x will be equal to negative, remember this negative, always start with the negative because it's part of the formula. And then check what's the value of b. You've seen even this one is a negative. Examiners like this because students make a lot of mistakes. Instead of saying negative 12 here like this in brackets, a student will just say negative 12, okay, and then everything now just gets messed up. So please be very careful as you are solving. Let's push it a little downwards. X is equal to negative 12, okay, plus or minus the square root of negative 12 squared. Here where there is b squared, we have put this one, okay, minus, let me erase this, and that, okay, this is squared, minus 4. Here where there is a, I check what's my a, it's 3, so I'll say 3, close, open, okay, I can erase that. Here where there is c, I check what's my c, positive 5, close. Then so here that's a square Then 2, what is a? A is 3 right there. So 2 times 3. So x will be equal to this negative here times this negative down there, gives us a positive 12. Okay, plus or minus the square root of negative 12 squared should give us 144, I think. Positive 144. So again, make sure you apply the values, you are plugging them into your brackets. Negative 12 squared will give you negative 144, while negative 12 squared will give you positive 144. So this is the correct one. So make sure you put these guys in brackets so that your final answer is a positive. Don't forget to put the values in brackets. If you are dealing with a negative, you are gone. So be very careful. And then here negative 4 times 3 times 5. So open brackets, not really, negative 4 first, open bracket, 3, close, open, 5, close. That gives me negative 60. And then everything over 2 times 3, that's a 6. This one right there. Okay. So meaning x is equal to 12 plus or minus the square root of what is 144 minus 60. Okay. That gives me positive 84. Okay, everything over 6. At this point, you know the drill. We're now going to say, where is this guy? Okay, we're now going to say x is equal to 12. We pick the positive plus the square root of 84. And then everything over 6, we say x is equal to 12. We now pick the negative, okay, minus the square root of 84. Then everything over 6. We now punch. Okay, so open bracket 12 plus the square root of 84. Close the bracket, then everything over 6, right? Okay, correct. This one gives me 3.527525232. 3.57, not 57, 527. 527 5232 527525232, or x is equal to, we now punch this part. Okay, that is in brackets 12 minus the square root of 84, close bracket, everything over 6. Is that correct? Yes. Okay, 0.47247. 0.47247 agent 47. 4747 683. So meaning x is equal to 3.53. This 7 will round up the 2, okay, by 1, and then x is equal to 0.47. This 2 is less than 5, so it can't round up the 7, and we are done. So this is basically how we're supposed to answer quadratic equations in paper 2. As you have noticed, this is a very, very simple topic. Okay, very, very simple. So this one carries 5 marks. So you have to make sure that the 5 marks, all of them are yours. Okay, don't make a mistake when you're rounding off or forget anything at any point. Make sure you are counting on the 5. Get all of them. Otherwise, we're pretty much done. In the next session, we're going to be looking at matrices, paper 2. We started looking at matrices in paper 1, but we only did a few subtopics. Usually in paper 2, they'll simply ask you to find an unknown value. They'll give you a matrix and then maybe hide one of the entries or the elements within that matrix, and then they'll need you to find that value So they'll give you a matrix with a missing value, and then they also give you a determinant. So you simply have to use the formula for finding the determinant to find the missing value. And then they will also ask you to find the inverse of a matrix. Very simple stuff. Yeah, so I'll show you how you're supposed to do that in the next session. Otherwise, that is that. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.